Hi guys, and welcome back to another lesson in algebra. In today's lesson we're going to learn about some of the terms that we need to know the language that we need to know in algebra, and also the different parts of a sum that we can label, and also how to write an expression or an equation. So the first thing we need to know is all of the different parts of an expression. So we have this number out the front. These are called the coefficients. So we have the coefficient of xy is 4 and the coefficient of x is 3. So the coefficient is the value out the front of a pronumeral or a letter. Then we have here our x and our y. We call these our pronumerals or variables. They are something that can change. So the value of them can change. This here is called a term. So a term is anything that's broken up by an addition or subtraction. So this at the front here, 4xy is one term, 3x is another, and 3, or negative 3 should I say, is a term as well. And then we have our negative 3, or our number on its own, is called our constant. Now the negative is attached to that, so in this case the constant is negative 3. Now there's different parts of an equation. So this here, with just the letters and the pronumerals, not including that equal sign over here, this part here is what we call an expression, and over here we have another expression. So here we have two expressions. Now altogether, this is written as an equation. An equation is a rule or a sum that has an equal sign in it. And what we are saying here is that this expression equals the exact same amount as this expression. Okay, so if we were to put the sums in, we would end up with the same amount at the end. What I want you to do now is pause the video, and I want you to match these 6 terms to the definitions that are on your sheet. So hopefully you match them correctly. So pronumerals is the letter part of the term. The coefficient is the number part of a term. That's out the front of a pronumeral is the important thing. A term is a group of letters and numbers, or pronumerals and numbers, that form an expression and are separated by an addition or a subtraction sign. A constant is a term that does not have a pronumeral attached to it, so it's just a number on its own. Then we have an expression, which is a mathematical statement, and it has terms and operations and some brackets or indices or some square roots, but it does not have an equal sign. So an expression is a sum that doesn't have an equal sign, and an equation is like an expression, but it has a left-hand side and a right-hand side with an equal sign in the middle of them. Okay, so let's do an example. So for the expression 3a plus b plus 7, we're going to identify the following: the number of terms in the expression, any variables used in the expression, the coefficient in each term containing a variable, so if it has a variable in it, what's the coefficient for it, and any constant terms. So let's start with the number of terms in the expression. So the first thing we need to do is, let's identify the different terms. So we've got one here, here, and here. Because remember that a term is broken up by an addition sign. So we have 3 terms in this expression. Now, how many variables are used in the expression? So a variable is the pronumeral, the letter or the symbol that represents something that can change. So in this case, we have 2, A and B. So what are the variables? Well, the variables are A and B. Okay, not how many there are. What are they is what we're asking here. Now, the coefficient of each term containing a variable. So the coefficients of A and B. So the coefficient, remember, is the number at the front. Now in this case, 3 is our coefficient for A. And with B, there's no number out the front that we can see. Don't know why my laser's frozen. There's no number at the front here that we can see, but what we are actually saying is it's 1 times b. Okay, so there's a 1 here, but if there's no need to write 1, because if we say I have 1 apple, well, it's the same as saying I have an apple. If someone says to you, I have an apple, you know that they've got 1 apple. So if there's a b, we know that there's 1 b. So the coefficient of each term containing a variable is 3 and 1. So any constant terms. So any constant terms are the ones without any variables or pronumerals attached to them. So in this case, our constant is 7. Now we're going to write an expression for each of the statements. So the sum of A and B. So the word sum means to add them together. How much do we get when we add them together? Now, because we don't know what A equals, we can't answer it and tell us what the sum of A and 3 are. All we can do is write an expression. So what we would write is A plus 3. Then we can go 9 less than B. Again, we don't know what b is, we can't solve the problem, so we write it as b minus 9. Twice the value of c is 2 times c. And in the last couple of lessons, we talked about the fact that, well, we can write this as 2c, and it still means 2 times c. And the last one, which is d divided by 5, we just write d divided by 5. Hopefully this makes some sense. We're going to get into some questions, but if you have any questions for me, please make sure you do ask. Otherwise, we will see you in the next lesson. Thanks, guys.